Welcome to Dr. Fred Markets. This is not financial advice. The gap between those who understand finance and those who don't is growing every year. Markets, crypto, artificial intelligence, they just require attention. You showed up today. You're on the right side of that gap. Let's make it count. Let's go.
Retirement is rigged, and nuclear waste is your new pension plan. Signal 1. Switzerland just called bullshit on infinite growth and is literally voting to cap the population at 10 million. That's a rich, stable, hyper-productive country quietly admitting we're running into hard limits: land, energy, infrastructure. That's not immigration politics. That's a balance sheet problem. Fewer workers, more retirees, same standard of living. Something has to give. Spoiler, it's your fantasy of 8% forever in an overstuffed index fund. Signal 2. The S&P 500 waltzes higher to 741. Nvidia grinds up again, and everyone chants AI saves us. But AI doesn't run on vibes. It runs on electricity, and a brutal amount of it. Data centers already eat around 2 to 3% of global power demand. AI build-out turns that dial toward 10% this decade, and grids are already creaking. Politicians mumble about renewables, but when the lights flicker and the GPUs need juice, they don't pray to the sun. They call whoever can keep the grid alive 24/7. That's nuclear. Signal 3. While normies joke about glow-in-the-dark stocks, uranium miners have been in a stealth bull market for years. Spot uranium ripped from under £20 in 2017 to flirting with $100. Utilities locked into long-term contracts are now waking up to rolled-off supply, underbuilt mines, and reactors getting life extensions. At the same time, governments from the US to Japan are crawling back to nuclear like exes who swore they'd never go back. They're not doing that for fun. They're doing that because AI, EVs, and green everything are screaming for baseload power. So here's the knot. Countries admitting growth boundaries, AI devouring power, and nuclear suddenly back from the dead. If your retirement plan is just buy the index and chill, you are underwriting all of this risk while earning nothing from the infrastructure that bails the system out. The connection nobody wants to say out loud. In an aging, energy-hungry world, nuclear isn't a debate topic. It's the collateral backing your retirement fantasy. As populations slow, GDP growth decays. That means less tax revenue, more entitlements, and governments quietly hunting any asset that produces real inflation-resistant cash flow. Nuclear plants are giant bond machines, 40-plus years of predictable power sales, indexed to reality, not your favorite macro guru's feelings. You learned for the last decade that tech stocks are growth. That was phase 1. Phase 2 is uglier. For AI to keep growing, something has to guarantee round-the-clock energy. Wind and solar are great, but they're mood-based. Coal is politically radioactive. Gas is volatile. Nuclear is hated, which is perfect. The assets the crowd hates are usually the ones that pay. Here's the mechanism.
Does what you just heard shift something for you? That feeling, that need to know more, is exactly the right reaction. Most people never get there. You just did. Let's keep going.
Governments push AI, EVs, and electrification. Grids strain under new loads. To avoid blackouts and political suicide, they extend old nuclear reactors, greenlight new builds, and shove money into uranium supply. That creates a capital cycle. Long, painful build times, front-loaded spending, back-loaded, stable cash flows. Exactly the opposite of your dopamine-addicted Robinhood portfolio. While you chase shiny logos, pension funds and infrastructure investors line up to own the pipes, wires, and reactors that make the future physically work. You don't need to become a nuclear engineer. You need to understand one fact. In a capped population, aging world, productivity and energy density are the only levers left. Nuclear is both. That's why it quietly graduates from controversial to non-negotiable. So what do you do with this, as one tiny human with a brokerage account and a healthy distrust of everything? First, accept the verdict. Your retirement is levered to energy whether you like it or not. If you own broad indexes, you already have exposure to AI demand, to utilities, to the chaos that follows. But that exposure is indirect and diluted. You fund the party, you don't own the bar. Second, learn the nuclear stack instead of parroting headlines. There are 3 layers. 1, uranium miners and developers, high beta, tied to spot price. 2, fuel cycle and services, conversion, enrichment, maintenance. 3, utilities and infrastructure, actual plant owners and grid players. One concrete thing you now know: uranium fuel is a tiny slice of a reactor's total cost. That means even a big uranium price spike barely dents the economics of nuclear power, but it massively impacts the miners' margins. That's why their earnings swing harder than your favorite AI stock on earnings day. Third, action. Not hype, not FOMO, just a clean checklist. 1. Spend one evening mapping which funds or stocks in your market give targeted nuclear or uranium exposure. No YOLO, just homework. 2. Decide if a 1 to 5% energy backbone sleeve in your long-term portfolio makes sense. Treat it like owning the grid, not a meme. 3. Track policy, not headlines. Switzerland debating population caps, AI scrambling for power, governments extending reactors. These are your real indicators, not TikTok sentiment. This is not financial advice. This is the truth. AI gets all the press, but your future lifestyle hangs on who owns the power plants that keep AI breathing. The crowd chases the apps. Adults own the infrastructure. Decide which one you want to be. Subscribe if you want one thing every day. One brutal fact, one mechanism, one action. No fluff, no hopium, just the map. This is not financial advice. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and check the links in the first comment below.
That's it for today on Dr. Fred Markets. I hope this gave you clarity and a new perspective. Remember, this is not financial advice. Always do your own research. If you found this useful, subscribe. It's free and it helps the channel grow. Find me on the blog at drfredmarkets.com and join the newsletter via the link in bio. I'm Dr. Fred Markets. See you in the next one.